Welcome to a brand new episode of the Bold Take Podcast. I'm Austin Hill. With me, as always, is Austin Wader, and we're back wrapping up our NBA season after last night's game 7 finished. I won't spoil anything just yet on who won. We'll talk about it as we get there. Obviously, if you're watching this show, you already know what happened, but just for the fun and the excitement and the thrill, we'll hold on just a little bit longer and think about the possibilities of what could have been. Um, but look, we've got not just NBA Finals action to break down. Yesterday, before Game 7 tipped off, we had a massive trade breakthrough. And then, of course, we'll wrap it up talking about our college football 26 dynasty teams. We will officially land on our first teams. So the wait is over in several respects. But just quickly, a moment of silence. This will be the last episode I record from this venue. I know you've probably noticed hats coming off the wall, things getting a little bit cleaner, moving this weekend. So this will be the last time, if all goes well, that we shoot an episode in this room. So with that being said, let's kick it off talking about Game 6 of the NBA Finals. We left off with Game 5. And look, it was desperate for the Indiana Pacers in this moment. We both talked about it. They were going to get one more at home, but they had to win at home, had to win on the road. The environment was going to be tough. I know for sure I said it. I don't remember if you did, but I thought the Pacers would come out and win this game. I thought they would win it big like they did, 108-91. I just thought they'd have the momentum going. I didn't think this was going to be the hard part of the two games for the Indiana Pacers. I thought it was Game 7. And in this game, I was proven right. Look, nothing particularly big from the starters and some tough shooting, but Obi Toppin with 20 off the bench and TJ McConnell with 12 off the bench was really the big catalyst for this team to get going in a hurry. And TJ McConnell with 4 steals in this game. So we talked a lot about Caruso in the last episode, as it looked like, maybe the Thunder were going to be able to close this game, a series out, and the credit that Caruso should get. But TJ McConnell had himself a series and a game here. We'll talk about his heroics in Game 7 as well.
Yeah, I don't know what kind of drugs third quarter TJ McConnell takes, but I want them because third quarter TJ McConnell might just be the greatest basketball player of all time. I mean, he was incredible, but in this game, in Game 6, the reason the Pacers got the win here, they forced OKC into 21 turnovers. I think that was either the most or the second most turnovers they've had in a game this year. And the Pacers got out on the break early and often. And I mean, that second quarter was an avalanche. I mean, they just kept on piling on and on and on. And then you had Pascal Siakam do one of the dirtiest posters I've ever seen. I'm really surprised Jalen Williams was able to play Game 7, being able to
Yeah.
recover from literally dying in that poster. And then in the fall away jumper, the second half really was, just like whatever here. That second quarter pretty much what sealed the deal with it. The Pacers got out on the break. They were hitting their shots early and often, and everyone was getting involved. There was no big scoring performance. Obviously, Obi Toppin had 20, but you had so many guys in double figures for the Pacers. It was absolutely incredible. And yeah, OKC just couldn't get it done once they kind of like the wheels fell off. They were never able to get them really back for this Game 6. And yeah, I mean, you saw start of the fourth quarter with Shea and Jalen Williams sitting on the bench. I'm like, well, if that doesn't confirm it, I don't know what does. So, felt good for the Pacer fans to at least in the last home game of the year to get a win like that. I mean, that was besides Game 4 against the Cavs, that was probably the best basketball I've seen the Pacers play.
Yeah.
Game 4 against the Cavs was wire to wire. This one was kind of more the first half, really, but it was still a dominant performance.
Yes, absolutely. And the big thing about this game to me is that Game 7, like we said, was probably going to be the harder of the two games for the Pacers to win. But the one thing this does in the series is it spins the momentum. We were talking about OKC, 2 wins in a row. Now they come into Indiana. They've got this momentum. They can close out here. Now you come out and you win big in front of your home crowd, and that gets you fired up going into a game seven, kind of swings the momentum, maybe counteracts a little bit of that home court advantage, at least gives you that right mindset going into this game seven, as opposed to losing two games in a row. So obviously
I
that
think
was the only
yeah.
option the way the series had gone. They couldn't lose this game and then still go to game seven. But I do think that that is the one positive you got out of having to play this game seven is that at least they were going to come in with momentum.
Yeah, that was my thinking with game six. Like I remember telling myself like before the game, like if it's a close win in game six, I'm very nervous for game seven. But the fact that they went out there and just blew the Thunder out in the game, like it was never even close, besides the very, very, very beginning when it was like 10-2, the Thunder were on front. I was telling myself, I was like, wow. I was like, that's some great momentum to take into game seven. And if you watch the start of game seven, it kind of felt like that was gonna be it with the way that game started.
Yeah, and just some stats to kind of look over from OKC because we've been talking about this the whole series, and kind of in the wins and losses, how these teams look, and especially how Oklahoma City looks. And look, 21 points, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, low for the series, 8 turnovers, 2 assists, minus 17 plus minus. You look at Jalen Williams had 16 points and a minus 40 plus minus. I mean, almost unplayable number in the plus minus there. That's bad. Minus
Right after
40.
a 40-point game. Let's think. So he
Yeah.
had a 40-point game and then a negative 40 plus minus. I mean, that's
And
ridiculous.
that's a minus 40 plus minus with 16 points scored. If he had 0 points,
Oh
and
my
all those
goodness.
possessions he scored on resulted in 0 points. We're talking about minus 56 plus minus here. I mean,
Goodness. My
I mean,
gosh.
almost a 20-point game can't counteract the minus 40 plus minus. So look, they did what they needed to do and they did it right. You talked about Alex Caruso. Normally we think of him as kind of a grounded, at the very least, he's grounding your defense, keeping you in this game, keeping the game close. How about this? 0 for 2 shooting, 0 for 1 from three, no points, no steals, one blocks, and a minus 33 plus minus. Alex Caruso, minus 33 plus minus. He's the kind of guy you think, even if he's on the floor not contributing offensively, they're not getting 33 points when this guy's on the floor. And yet they do. So it felt like everything kind of went right for the Pacers. And like I said, that 20 points from Obi Toppin and 12 from TJ McConnell really helped this team. But on to game seven. And at the beginning of this game, and really most of this game, this was a thrilling back and forth. But obviously, before we get into the full breakdown of this game, we have to get into the elephant in the room. What happened? What, early second quarter or
It,
late first
it might
quarter?
have been late first quarter. I know it was like 16-16 or something like that whenever it happened. So it might have been like halfway through the first quarter or something like
Yeah,
that.
I think you're right. I think you're right. Um, and an all-time just killing moment for a team. Tyrese Halliburton goes to drive, same spot, and same really sequence as game five, trying to get downhill and just goes down. And right away, at least it was apparent to me, and I think to you as well. We've seen this a few times. You go straight to the ground on your stomach and immediately no thoughts, nobody's come up to you to say anything. It's just you and what you're feeling, and you're pounding the ground saying no, 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 no. I think that means, at least to me, the all-time worst. Uh, you know, you said this to me before we started recording, and it's the first thing that went into my mind after, I saw it and I was processing what was happening. But you kind of exactly predicted that this might be what happens if Tyrese Halliburton were to continue to play in the series without being, officially cleared from a strained right calf. If he was just to come back out here with that injury. And, obviously hasn't been confirmed yet, but it looks like a torn Achilles. Look, again, we've seen it numerous times. This is, kind of the textbook reaction. Look, a strain that, it's been confirmed by Halliburton's father during the game that it's some type of Achilles injury. And I've never seen anybody react to a strained Achilles like it was a, game-ending, season-ending, next season-ending injury. This was a big reaction. So to me, it says torn Achilles. But from the Pacers fan, thoughts on this in a game where this game is tied and Tyrese Halliburton's a huge contributor in this early part of the game.
Well, number one, I just want to say this part of his stats because it's absolutely crazy to think about. Tyrese finished the game with the most 3-pointers made by any player in the game. Because he started red hot in this game from three. And I remember telling myself, I was like, he's going to shut the narrative up tonight about whether you think he's a superstar or not. Game 7, he's going to come out and shut the narrative up. And he was aggressive scoring early. I felt really good. Whenever it first happened, I saw him fall down. And I was watching with my friend David, who's a Thunder fan. And he was freaking out about it, but I'd seen it before where, they'll fall down and just not get back defensively. So that's what I thought happened at first. But then they cut back to him, and like you said, him literally pounding the ground and screaming no. Uh yeah, I knew what it was immediately. Like I didn't even need to see the replay. Like as soon as I saw, I was like, gosh dang it, that's it was hard. It was hard to watch. Especially for a player who, regardless of what people say, gave arguably the most historic playoff run from a player ever, maybe.
Yeah, I agree with
I,
that.
I, I mean, one of, if not the best. And to have it end that way in the first quarter of the biggest game of your life um, is just terrible. Like I say, yeah, I predicted it. Now, let me be clear when I said that was recorded before Game 6, and you'll probably see that whenever that reel gets posted later today on our accounts, which totally random plug. You should totally go follow the Bull Take podcast on TikTok. Highly recommend it. But yeah, I talked to him. I said, listen, I would not be shocked if he doesn't play Game 6 because, calf strains, like I tried to tell you, are no joke. They can lead to serious things happening if you're not 100%. Now, I'll be honest with you. After Game 6, the way he played didn't even cross my mind going into Game 7. It didn't even cross my mind going into Game 7 that could happen. Mainly because I looked, I was like, look, he played 23 minutes on it in Game 6. He should be fine. I was like, the only part I might have gotten worried about was maybe second half of the game, maybe in Game 7 was what I thought I was going to have to worry about. But no, I mean, I knew it immediately, and as soon as they showed the replay, I mean, anybody who knows basketball, I mean, when he made that move, and you see his calf pretty much explode. I'm not gonna say it exploded, but like pretty
Yeah.
much. I mean, it had a big movement in it. Whenever he made the move, you knew that was not only an Achilles tear, that was a very severe Achilles tear. It looked like, and you know, uh, we're going to talk more about it, I'm sure, afterwards. So I'll save that talk for. But obviously, the future for what the next year could hold for the Pacers is different there. But yeah, the rest of Game 7, I'll be honest with you, I tried cheering on the Pacers. I mean, they were up by one at halftime. But I mean, I knew what was going to happen at some point. I remember telling David at halftime, I'm like, third quarter Thunder are probably going to pull this thing out. And third quarter Thunder did exactly that. So,
Yeah.
but man, that injury was a killer.
Yeah. The big thing for me watching this game was when Tyrese Halliburton went down, this team could have just hung their heads and said, hey, we got this close. And, there's no shame in losing in the game 7 without your superstar. They didn't do that. Like you said, they were up
No.
one at halftime. The third quarter got a little messy, but they cut it back and made this a game all the way to the last second.
Mm-hmm.
Only a
Yep.
12-point, loss there, and that's playing the foul game.
Yep.
Um, so this team fought hard and played really well. And the big thing I think we need to highlight here for the Indiana Pacers before we get into talking about the Oklahoma City Thunder, TJ McConnell and Benedict Mathurin, the two guys who had to step up in this point guard role after Tyrese goes down. And you talk about it, 16 from TJ McConnell, 24 from Benedict Mathurin. This has been, like I said, a great series for TJ McConnell, but just a great series for this team. They fought hard. They played till the very end. They did not give up. in the end, just outmatched by this unbelievable Thunder team and the unbelievable effort from Shea Gilgeous-Alexander.
Um, like I said, third quarter, TJ McConnell was incredible. I will say that you said they didn't quit, but the thought I think every single Pacer fan was thinking this whenever it happened. Whenever they were cutting it like to like keep when I'll be honest with you, I didn't think the Thunder played that well most of the games, most of the game, but they were able to pull away in that third quarter and stuff. But I kept on sitting there just thinking, mainly, especially in the fourth quarter, whenever it was like a 10-point game or something, I kept sitting there being like, man, if Tyrese was in here right now, this would because I'll be honest with the way he was starting and the way the Thunder played in that first half, I would have expected us to have had like a 10-point lead at halftime or something and be like, all right, we're rolling. But that didn't happen. No. TJ McConnell and Benedict Mathurin were incredible. The aggressive scoring by Mathurin was a great sign to see. The fight he had playing and stepping up whenever we needed him to, he was great. And then, my goodness, third quarter, TJ McConnell again scored on 12 straight points. I think I saw a stat. It was like with from the 8-minute mark of the third quarter till like the start of the fourth quarter, TJ McConnell scored all those points for the Pacers. That is stepping up for him. And man, TJ McConnell, I don't have the words to say this man played his absolute heart out. I feel terrible for him that he couldn't get an NBA title out of it. But man, like I said, he played his heart out. He played absolutely incredible, did everything he could. Um, but the thing that hurt him mainly was in the fourth quarter. Uh, that's the point whenever Tyrese usually comes in after the strong third quarter from TJ and looks to kind of close it out. That's usually how it kind of played out. So instead, you got TJ playing the fourth quarter, and it was just a different level of defense from the Thunder that just kind of caused him some issues. And that's another one I was sitting there thinking, man, if that was, Tyrese in that situation, who knows? Because TJ did what he was expected to. Third quarter, he went out, was a big contributor, kept this game within reach. And it just didn't work out for him. But man, I'm proud of the guys for fighting. We've said the entire year, they don't quit. It does not matter the score in the game. They do not quit. I just remember sitting there at halftime thinking, I was like, man, the fact that they are up by one, that is some fight in that team. That, listen, obviously next year, like I said, we'll talk more about that, but you got to feel good about next year, even if, depending on how long Tyrese is out, if you can keep a lot of these main core guys, you got to think you can still compete in the East.
Agreed. But we talk about this Oklahoma City Thunder team, and look, when they needed it, they got it done. 18 from Chet Holmgren, 20 from Jalen Williams, 29 and 12 from Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, only one turnover on that. 10 off the bench from Caruso, 10 off the bench from Cason Wallace. This team just got the job done. Like you said, it wasn't the best basketball this team's ever played. But this third quarter, they really locked in and got the job done. I thought even in the fourth quarter, they were kind of sloppy. They got up a little bit in the last like 5 minutes of the game, and they took a couple bad shots. And then the Pacers started to get back in this game, get close, get close. And that's kind of what it was. It wasn't their best decision making. Sure, they felt a little bit more comfortable not having to worry about Tyrese. But look, this was still a great performance, a great series, and a well-deserved win. Finals MVP, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, and it was hard to deny him. The first player in 25 years to win the regular season MVP, Finals MVP, and the scoring title. That's a season. And you talked about the narratives in this finals and Tyrese Halliburton reversing the narrative. But really, we had the two stupidest, whiniest, cryest narratives in the history of the NBA Finals this year. It was Tyrese Halliburton's not a real superstar. The Pacers shouldn't be here. And Shea Gilgeous-Alexander is good, but he's not the MVP. He's the worst MVP of all time. Shut up. Tyrese Halliburton clearly proved he's a superstar in this series. I think that goes without question. And clearly his team missed his presence. And for the Oklahoma City Thunder, I'm done with this worst MVP of all time narrative. Uh, what are we talking about? Have we watched basketball? The only player that came close to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander this year is Nikola Jokic. And when it came down to head in the biggest games of the season this year, who won that series? Who willed his team on? That was Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. You don't win a scoring title because you're a foul merchant. You don't win Finals MVP because you're a foul merchant. And I'm also done with that debate. Does he get calls? Yes, but does he know how to control his body in the mid range and take advantage of a defender's being out of position? I'd say so. In this game, the Pacers had to play the best defense they probably ever played this series. You know why? Because every time he got the ball, they went straight up and they played with their feet. Because he takes advantage when your hands are down, when you reach, and when you're a step behind. So sure, he gets a lot of calls, but he gets a lot of calls on sloppy defense. This has been a great season for the Oklahoma City Thunder. This is a great season for NBA basketball. This
Yeah.
shows there is more than one way to get it done. You don't have to build the super team. You don't have to spend the big bucks to bring in the superstars. If you draft well and you make great decisions, this is about decision making that was made almost half a decade ago
Mhm.
when they started offloading talent, Paul George, Russell Westbrook, and kind of reshaping the way this team was going to be. Sam Presti loaded his team up so that he could build through the draft and build a great team. And he's landed with some of those big time picks. Talking about Jalen Williams, maybe a reach at 12. It doesn't look like so much of a reach now. Chet Holmgren at the top of his draft. And you look at the trade for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. This has been a job well done by the Oklahoma City Thunder. This is great for NBA fans. This gives everybody hope coming into next season that anybody's team can get it done. You don't have to be the big market. You don't have to have the superstars. If the team's building something and they're on the right track, this is the right way to go about it. This isn't the only way to do it, but this gives those teams hope that can't afford to keep the four superstars on the Supermax contracts.
Yeah. Well, let's just say number one. This is the seventh straight year we have a new NBA champion. This is the seventh straight year. I mean, that is ridiculous, number one. But number two, speaking as a Pacer fan, I'm not going to sit here and, be petty about it. The Thunder were the best team in the NBA all year. Everyone knew it. And I'm tired of the free throw merchant stuff too. Because guess what? If he's a free throw merchant, 12 assists, a career high for him, moving the basketball like he did, he's an all around player making the big time plays for the team. I don't know what you want me to say. The two, you want to know how important? I mean, I have the stats right here. Every single game in the finals. Game one, he had 38 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists. Game two, 34, 5 and 8. Game three, 24, 8 and 4. Game four, 35 and 3. Game, game five, 31, 2 and 10. Game six, obviously 21, 4 and 8 turnovers, but game seven, 29, 5 and 12. I am not in recent memory, cannot think of a more consistent MVP. Like, look, Nikola Jokic is don't get me wrong. Nikola Jokic, in my personal opinion, is probably the best basketball player on the planet. That's
Agreed.
just my opinion on it. But whenever I look at this whole playoff run, I mean, shoot, this guy had one, maybe 2 games under 20 plus points scored. That's the definition of consistency, scoring and making the plays for your team. I mean, he was incredible. And like I said with the Thunder, they did this their own way. Sam Presti traded all that stuff away and said, let's develop the guys we got. I guarantee whenever that Paul George trade happened, nobody was looking at Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and saying, yeah, that's going to be a league MVP. You want to know why it happened? The development from the coaching staff of the Thunder and the training, obviously. The Thunder's development staff deserves a round of applause for this because they're just as much responsible as that. The difference of Jalen Williams from a year, the difference a year makes with him. I mean, like I know Shai was a great part of it, but they don't win if Jalen Williams doesn't step up and have the big moments that he's had this postseason.
Agreed.
They don't win without the step up of Chet Holmgren having the most blocks in a finals game ever in game seven, you know? And then guess what? Whenever they fell short last year, they didn't freak out and go all in on a move. They made one, like two tiny little detail moves. Number one, getting Isaiah Hartenstein, getting a veteran center on the team. Number two, getting an NBA champion in Caruso, trading away Josh Giddey. And he found that perfect core there. OKC deserves all the credit in the world because that is a talented roster. They did it the right way. And the crazy part is they have the 15th overall pick in the NBA draft. They could probably get another great talent that they could look to develop for the future. That's what they've done with making these moves. And yeah, I mean, hats off to them. They deserve all the credit in the world. Of course, I am a salty Pacers fan saying if Tyrese Halliburton would have played this and that. Tyrese could have played and they might have lost still because that team was this good. I, as a Pacer fan, never worried about any series in the playoffs. Like in the East, like I'm not worried about Milwaukee. I think we can beat the Cavs. I think we can beat the Knicks. This series was the first one I walked into and said, yeah, I really don't know about this one. And that's because that's how good this Thunder team was. And they proved it in game seven. Did they get sloppy at points? Yes. But they made the big plays when it mattered to stretch the lead out and keep that at a comfortable margin.
Yeah, ordinarily I'd sit here and we talk about what the future looks like for Oklahoma City. What do they do to get ready for next year? Um, my big thing is so many of these guys are going to be here next year that there isn't a lot to do. Maybe bring back a couple of these guys who are on the way out, but like you said, number 15 overall pick, you take somebody there that's going to fill a hole. My biggest thing, if I was looking at anything this team needs to do, I would personally say maybe one more force down low. There's some games this postseason, this NBA Finals, where Chet Holmgren was more bad than good for this team. He's great at positioning himself to get those big blocks like he did in Game 7, but from a strength standpoint, he's outmatched and outsized by some of these bigger forces. And Hardenstein was great, but he can't be everywhere. Playing teams like the Pacers, this tested Holmgren. And at his best, he had a game 7, but at his worst, he had game 6. And I think maybe a little bit more of a consistent force, or at least somebody that when Chet's having a bad game or Hardenstein's having a bad game, you've got somebody who you can rotate in that can still be kind of that force and that presence down low. But other than that, this team is put together for the next couple of years, and they're going to be a force next year.
Let me just say, starting lineup: Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, 26; Chet Holmgren, 23; Isaiah Hartenstein's 27; Jalen Williams, 24; Lou Dort, 26. Those guys aren't even in their prime yet, truly. The only one that's maybe in their prime right now, obviously, is probably Shea, obviously.
Yeah.
So these other guys are going to continue to get better, along with some of the pieces off the bench. Let's not forget, you still got guys that hardly played in Isaiah Joe and Jalen Williams who were impactful, which that's just a shout out to Arkansas guys getting an NBA title. I think this is the 4th time in 5 years that the NBA champion has had someone play at Arkansas. So that's just an awesome stat to see. Cason Wallace is still there. The only one you look at as a veteran and say, maybe you've got to keep an eye on is Caruso. But even with that, you know what he's going to bring you defensively. I will agree with you on the center position thing, and that's mainly due to, like I said, Chet. I think I saw at points that he had statistically prior to Game 7 one of the worst finals for a center in recent memory. And I was talking with David last night. You have that 15th pick. When you look at this roster, what exactly are you going to get that's going to play right away and help you compete right away at the 15th pick? Why not trade off Chet Holmgren and the 15th pick, get an upgrade at center? That's something I can see. Now, obviously, you look at it and go, well, Chet's only 23. There's no way they're going to do that. You're right. You're probably right. But if I'm looking at anything where I'm like, man, how could this team get even better from a 68-win team? That's what I'm thinking. And again, obviously, this is something that we probably have all forgotten about with Game 7. NBA drafts Wednesday and Thursday night, because it's now a 2-night event. I really don't know why they did that. But Derek Queen from Maryland is probably personally my favorite player in this NBA draft. He's such a versatile center. I think that you get him, that's something dangerous. I think we know who. I think we know which that he want the Bulls want him to get to.
I've seen mocks having him fall that far. If he falls that far, he'll be a Chicago Bull. I mean, it's exactly what we need. Look, we're confident in Kobe, want to bring back Giddy, but Vooch has got to go, and we've got nothing to replace him. And it's something against Nikola Vucevic. Actually, these last 2 years, he's been pretty good. Um, Unfortunately, this team's
Doesn't fit
not.
what y'all are doing right now, though. That's the thing.
Yeah, this team is not competing, and it needs a reset. And Vooch got to go. We've got to finally get draft picks back in our favor. Um, but hopefully, we pick Derek Queen, and hopefully the Thunder don't even have the chance to think about it. But we'll see. I like Derek Queen a whole bunch. Yeah, I can't believe the draft is coming up that fast. I wish other leagues would go ahead and take note. Hey, do the draft immediately after the season.
Like at the peak, like do it at your peak right now. Like we just finished talking about Game 7. You're gonna have 2 days to talk about this today and Tuesday, and then bang, NBA draft is what you're going to be focusing on. A lot of teams, especially the Thunder. Again, Thunder have the 15th overall pick, so it's not like that they're that far out with it. Obviously, the Pacers I know traded their first round pick this year to the Pelicans so they could get their first rounder back for next year. Which uh, before the Tyrese Halliburton deal, it was really good to do that. After the Tyrese Halliburton injury, that it looks even better because when in down next year, things just fall apart, because it very well could happen. I'm pretty sure it won't, but it could happen. You're guaranteed to have that pick. And you can also no longer have to deal with I think it's the stipend rule, where you can't trade consecutive years of first round picks. They
Yeah.
don't have to worry about that rule anymore with making this deal. So,
Yeah, and let's take it over to the Indiana Pacers. You lose this NBA Finals, it's close. Tyrese Halliburton, best case scenario, comes back for the playoffs next year. I
mhm,
think that's what we can all agree is best case scenario.
yeah.
And that's if this team makes the playoffs. Now, the big thing for the Pacers is you saw this game, you saw this performance, you saw this heart. This is a team that can compete. They can play the best team to the NBA down to the very last second. 12-point finish, but this was a close game, a fight. Like we said, he went down in the first quarter, and they were in the lead at halftime. So they put a fight on the best team in the NBA. They, especially in the East, this this team should be able to compete, and they should be able to get the job done. Uh, as far as making the playoffs or at least making a play-in game. So I don't think it's complete worry about the lottery, but like you said, they've got the pick back if they need to. But for this team, what can they do to make them put themselves in a better position next year? Or where do you think they should take the foot off the gas and take a worse season? Or do you think this team should still fight in hopes of a Tyrese return?
Well, number one, the fortunate thing for the Pacers is most of the guys are under contract for the future. Most of like the main key guys signed a lot of extensions last year, so they kind of got out in front of it, which kind of worked out. The only true, really key one to watch this off season is a guy I kind of hinted at in the last episode we did, which is Miles Turner. Uh, I don't know exactly what's going to happen there because I think personally, at the end of the day, they should probably re-sign him and give him the opportunity. I just don't know if the last couple of games in the finals what that does him because, like I said, Pacer fans were having that uncomfortable conversation after Game 5. Like, is he worth like getting a big contract extension like that? And it's like some people were I don't know. So that's the only one I look at. And if there was anything I'd say about this team is the center position, kind of similar to the Thunder. If you're not re-signing Miles Turner, what exactly are you doing at center position? Because no disrespect to Thomas Bryant and Tony Bradley at all, but I don't want those guys as my starting center. I don't want them as starting. They're great off the bench guys, but I don't need either one of them as our starting centers. I know Obviously, Isaiah Jackson. That's something else I guess I didn't say. There, along with Halliburton, there were three Pacers players that suffered Achilles injuries this year. Him, Isaiah Jackson, and James Wiseman. Um, and so maybe you look at Isaiah Jackson, say he could be the future there, but off an Achilles injury, I wouldn't feel confident enough to say that. So center position is the only thing I'd see. I'd have to do more research on free agent centers. I haven't done that yet, but I see no reason why you don't keep this team together, re-sign Miles, play next year, see what happens. If you're a playing team and you lose, fine, whatever. If you're a 4 or 5 seed and you go to the second round and lose, fine, whatever. Like I said, if Tyrese returns for the playoffs, which personally, if it's me, again, I'm not risking bringing him back at all next year. I'm like, you fully recover this year, and let's make a plan for the next year. That's my personal opinion on what they should do. But the only thing I'd look at is center. But obviously, that's the question with Miles Turner. They have to answer that question first, and then you can maybe figure out center.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's no reason to take your foot off the gas and coast. If you don't make the playoffs, you get a lottery pick, so be it. But even, this year, you look at this team, what, right before the All-Star break, and they were horrible.
Mm-hmm. I
Uh,
mean, they started the year 10 and 15. It did not look good early on. It did not look good.
and then the second half of the season, they became a completely different ball club. Um, so obviously, this team is no stranger to slow starts, and I think I'd be tempted. I'm with you. You want Tyrese Halliburton to fully recover. But oh, it would sound so sweet for this team to sneak into the playoffs and have Halliburton return and try to get that championship. But that's the thing I think. I think you keep your foot on the gas, you get to the playoffs. If you don't get Halliburton back, this is a capable team. In the East, this team should make the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if you don't, you don't. But if you do, there's that chance, that hope, that glimmer that maybe Halliburton can return at some point in this playoffs. And then we're the best team in the Eastern Conference, depending
Yeah.
on the way this offseason shakes up.
And that's
Uh,
something else we got to consider too is again how wide open. Me and you kind of quietly, like very quickly talked about it last night. What the heck is this Eastern Conference going to be next year? You're going to have Tatum out the whole regular season. You're going to have Halliburton out the whole regular season. The Celtics and the Pacers are good teams, yes, but without their superstar players, they're likely to fall back some. The Knicks don't have a head coach right now. So who knows what the future holds there? I mean, I think personally this offseason, if you're a team in the East and you feel like, hey, if we're ever going to get to the finals, this is the year. You need to be aggressive this offseason. That's why I don't blame Orlando for the Desmond Bain deal. Even though they gave up the 4 picks, they're probably, in my opinion, the second or third favorite to come out of the East next year, probably. Of course, obviously that's pending if Halliburton comes back, if Tatum comes back. Obviously, the Cavs will probably be number one. Then the Knicks will probably be two, and then the Magic three. Probably is how I imagine that'll go. So, but if you're a team in the East, you got to look at this and say, if we're gonna do it, we got to do it this year because Tatum and Halliburton will be back fully healthy. Depending on how the seasons go, with lottery pick talent on the teams that will be there for the next year. I mean, you got to be aggressive this year. I think if you're a team in the East and realize, hey, we got to do it now.
I'm with you. I think you got to take a big swing here. I'll throw out another team that we're not really mentioning. They weren't really a big threat this year. But if the Milwaukee Bucks hold on to Giannis, which I
Mm-hmm.
think it feels kind of closer and closer every day that Giannis may end up a Buck at least another season. But if you hold on to Giannis, uh, you'll probably be somewhat competitive. But Lillard is out with the Achilles injury. And so, barring a Giannis trade to somewhere else in the East, the Bucks are almost going to be a non-factor. If they trade Giannis to the West, well, the West got tougher and the East got easier. And if he stays, they're going to be about as good as they were this year, which wasn't great. They barely made the playoffs and they lost in the first round. So you're talking about a lot of these teams that have been contenders in the Eastern Conference over the last couple of years falling off. And now it's a chance for somebody else, like you said, doors wide open. Who's going to walk through and make something happen?
I'll give you another team too that I don't think, and they had a renaissance this year, so I could give why some people kind of be patient. Detroit Pistons, I think it's one not many people are talking about at all how good they were this year. It's another year with that coaching staff that really helped turn things around quickly. What could they be next year with some of the guys they have on their team? They're another one I think that you need to fairly consider for it. So I mean, if I'm a coach, if I'm like any part of an executive office in the Eastern Conference, I'm telling everyone that in that organization, if we want to get to an NBA title in the next 2 or 3 years, we got to be aggressive this year and go get it this year. That should be no question with some of these teams in the East. I'm trying to think of some more. I know the Atlanta. If Atlanta's looking to keep Trae Young, I mean, they maybe could move up some of the standings depending on how things go. Um, Maybe the Raptors. I know they were dealing with a lot of injuries to Brandon Ingram and stuff throughout the season, but I thought they would eventually turn into something. Maybe they'll be a team that kind of can sneak into the playoffs. The East is going to be, look, the West is just going to be a gauntlet again next year. We're fully well aware of that, especially with the deal we're going to talk about in a minute. And now with how wide open the East is.
Yeah, so let's take it over to the big trade that happens hours before our game 7. Kevin Durant on the move. And look, it was funny, fittingly enough, that we talked about this in our last episode with the Desmond Bain trade. We talked about what Kevin Durant might haul now with the look of it. And based on kind of this package, I think it's a similar value to what ended up coming from Desmond Bain. It just came a lot more in the form of a player and his potential as opposed to draft picks. But the Phoenix Suns are going to get Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, the number 10 pick in this year's draft, 5 second-round picks from Phoenix, or yes, from Houston. Um, and they're only dealing Kevin Durant. And this is a big deal. Look, um, big swing here by the Houston Rockets. Uh, and look, I was kind of surprised, I'll be honest, to see Jalen Green dealt. Um, but it goes back to what Ime Udoka said in the post-game press conference after this team went out in the playoffs in the first round. He said we're going to evaluate players' performances this postseason, and we're going to make decisions based on that. And Jalen Green had a big stinking
Yeah.
postseason.
Yeah.
It was not the performance you expected from a guy who was kind of the face of the team, was a what, number 2 pick in his draft.
Think so. I think it was
Um,
number two.
and was kind of the face of this team and just did not show up in the postseason as a 2 seed against the 7 seed Warriors, who, let's give some credit to, had they had Jimmy Butler all year, would have been better than a 7 seed. They
Right,
played better
right.
than in the postseason, but they were still the 7 seed. This is still a series that you really felt like Houston should have won. Um, I think the biggest thing that hurts them right now is losing Dylan Brooks. Uh, while I'm not the biggest Dylan Brooks fan, his veteran leadership and his defensive presence certainly helped elevate this team to another level. Um, but this is a big haul to kind of give out and make this deal. Um, and this is I expected a big deal for Kevin Durant. I expected somebody to pay, but this is high value. I didn't realize somebody would pay this much to get their hands on Kevin Durant. But he is one of the all-time greats.
Yeah. My thoughts on the deal is this is a high, it's my opinion, it's a highway robbery for the Houston Rockets in this deal. Number one, like I said, Jalen Green did not even come close to showing up in the postseason. Did not even come close to. It was a major disappointment. So that part I get making the move there. Honestly, you could question losing Dylan Brooks, but let's address the big thing here. You don't lose any of your other young talent. You've still got so many guys. Amen Thompson, Reed Shepard's a guy that's been developing. Cam Whitmore's a guy I think we've forgotten about that's kind of been stuck there. Um, Jabari Smith is good. Tari Eason, Alperen Şengün. There's still a lot of young talent there. And Steven Adams at your center position, of course, to go along with that. But here's the big takeaway. You don't lose any future first round picks. You don't lose a single one. So guess what? If this Kevin Durant thing happens and it doesn't work out, you still have a ton of your young talent and you still have control of your picks. And not only that, you still have control over the Phoenix Suns 2027 first round pick. That is something. When I saw this, I'm like, you mean to tell me Phoenix didn't even get back their own original pick in this deal? How does that? And I get the whole saying about Kevin Durant had the leverage and the Suns wanted this done before the draft. Fine. I get that. I get you wanting to get it out of the way and get done. If it was me, if I'm Phoenix, I'm holding out until seconds before the draft starts. I am giving the rest this Monday and Tuesday being like, last call for offers, and then we're going to make the move on draft night. And so I think they could have waited a little bit longer and maybe gotten a little bit more value. But then I don't know if you saw, Austin, about the Miami Heat in this. I don't know if you heard any of
No, I
this.
didn't.
So obviously the Miami Heat were considered, one of the teams favored for, for possibly getting Kevin Durant. Um, this is from Shams. He said that the Heat would not include in the deal for Kevin Durant Jaime Jaquez Jr., Nikola Jovic, Haywood Highsmith, and the number 20th pick or other draft assets in the deal for Kevin Durant.
So what did they have to trade for Kevin Durant? Nothing. They had nothing
Exactly.
to
That's
trade for Kevin Durant.
exactly. So whenever I saw, it, I was like, wow, they must have not been getting jack crap from anybody if that's the case. Because Haywood freaking Highsmith, are you kidding me that the Heat look at it and go, Kevin Durant or Haywood Highsmith? You know what? We'll stick with Haywood Highsmith.
How how do you not offload if you're Miami and the package that Phoenix offers you is the number 20 pick, Hayward Highsmith, Jaime Jaquez, and Nikola Jovic, guys who do not play on this team. Maybe Haywood Highsmith plays a decent amount, but the other two don't really play at all. And the number 20 pick, what? That's
Even
you don't
after, I mean, and you still have Bam there. You got
still
Khalil Ware, who
Carroll.
had an incredible rookie season. You still got so many good pieces there.
How is that? I don't know. I don't even know. I look, Miami's in a lot of trouble. They did a lot of destroying themselves to try and build a contender. I understand that. Um, but if you're still trying to fight to be a contender, then the draft assets still shouldn't matter, and the young guys shouldn't matter. I don't know. The
But
Suns,
but that yeah, but that overall that told me like again, I was like, well, at whenever I saw that, I was like, okay, then I kind of get Phoenix taking this deal then because who knows what the offer. Now, I had heard a rumor, I didn't know if it was true, that Phoenix was offered the number 2 pick from the Spurs and Stephon Castle for Durant, which they would have been stupid to not take that deal. If it was true, it might not be true, especially given this deal that happened there, so it probably isn't true. But yeah, I mean, this is kind of disappointing for Phoenix. I mean, I think they thought, after, especially after the Desmond Bain deal, me and you both were like, could they get equal to that value or not? And you get Jalen Green. Cool. What's the situation with Devin Booker then? What's going on there with him? Because that's 2 shooting guards. Are you going to have Devin Booker play point guard, Jalen Green play the 2? Yeah, you got Dylan Brooks playing defense. This was one of the worst teams in the NBA defensively last year, though. And Dylan Brooks can help that a little bit, but he's only one person. Who else is going to look to play defense on that Phoenix Suns roster? And I looked at the Phoenix Suns roster. They don't have a point guard on the roster officially under contract. They don't have a center under contract. I don't know what's going to happen there. But to me, Houston, it's a low leverage deal where if it doesn't work out, they can move on from it and still have all their future assets for them.
Agreed. I think the thought process here is that the value again is in Jalen Green. If Jalen Green hits the potential that he was supposed to hit, hits the ceiling he's supposed to hit, he's got the value of 4 first-round picks. Um, this postseason, not the best indicator towards that, but we'll see. So I think that's right now on paper, it's not the value that we were expecting. Um, but we'll see what happens with Jalen Green. My big thing with this deal, I don't hate Jalen Green and Devin Booker together. You're right, they're both shooting guards, but Jalen Green was kind of like a ball dominant shooting guard. I could see him sliding over to the one. I think the bigger question this asks for me is you talked about it. No true point guard on roster, even if you slide Jalen Green over, one true point guard on roster, or Devin Booker, whoever, one true point guard. You'll still have your 4 highest players will be shooting guards, or your 3 highest players if one of these guys are going to make the move to point guard. Bradley Beal and Grayson Allen, they both got to go. You're spending too much money in the guard department now. They've got to go. There's no way this works. Bradley Beal didn't work. Grayson Allen is a piece of garbage. You shouldn't be on any NBA team. So that seems like an easy save your money and build your team from there. Beal, look, another guy that's kind of got the leverage. You're not really going to get what you paid for him. So be it. Get something for him because
I,
having
I fully expect him to be bought out. That's what I
yeah.
expect from Phoenix. I expect them to buy him out because unless he agree, because he has a no trade clause. So unless he agrees to let that go, I expect him to be bought out because there's no way Phoenix can look at that, especially after making this deal and say, yeah, Bradley Beal can come back next year. No,
No, he
hell
can't.
no.
You're exactly right. He can't. So I don't know what happens with this team and what they're going to do, but uh, they got to start offloading some more talent. I think Jalen Green and Devin Booker could be fun, but now you need to start building a team around these two. Um, Something's got to happen. Uh, so we'll
Not like
see.
you have the first round picks to build it up again because you trade them all for Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, and making all these moves. So, um, I remember before 2020, the dark abyss that was Phoenix Suns basketball. I
Yeah.
mean, it kind of felt like personally, you kind of just forgot they were a franchise at points. We might be seeing that happen again. We might be like, maybe Jalen Green, Devin Booker could work, or it's going to be like a 30-win team or something like that.
Yeah. I think to me, this might be the last hurrah with Devin Booker.
Mm-hmm.
If things don't go well, who's got more value right now? Devin Booker, who's, kind of in the middle of his prime, or Jalen Green? If this team's bad, Jalen Green's kind of going to be the more valuable piece to keep around. Devin Booker's the guy you're going to cash in for draft picks. I
Yeah,
watched Devin Booker at the trade deadline this coming year.
I agree with that. 'Cause, I mean, he's only 28 years old. I'm pretty sure 28. So he's still got a ton of basketball left. We know what he can do for a team whenever he's on a great contending team. Whenever the Suns were an elite contender, he was awesome for them. So I agree. I'd watch him at the deadline. I think it could depend on what Phoenix does in the draft. Obviously, got the 10th overall pick. We'll see what they do there on Wednesday night. But yeah, I mean, I still wouldn't rule it out that maybe they move him on from him this offseason. I wouldn't rule that out. I think it would probably be later in the offseason. I wouldn't rule it out. I would depend on what they do with that 10th pick. If they pick a point guard with that top 10 pick, I feel pretty confident Devin Booker's gone.
Yeah.
If it's the center position like Derek Queen or somebody, he'll probably, like you said, he'll probably be around at least this year or until the trade deadline.
Ugh. But look, we've got a big mess to sort out. NBA draft coming up on Wednesday. We'll see kind of where some of these teams look and lean and the decisions that they're going to make. Um,
I can I just add one thing though? I This
yeah,
is the most I've looked forward to an NBA draft in some time because it's
yeah,
actually college players that I got to watch this year. Because I mean, no disrespect to last year's class, it was talented basketball players, but it was so many international players here and there. Just speaking as someone who watches college basketball to see the amount of talent that played college basketball that's going to be going in this draft. I mean, I'm actually looking forward to kind of keeping on seeing what kind of guys go where.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I got into the drafts and stuff. Started as a big basketball guy, watching the NBA draft, seeing all these guys that played college basketball, who's going to help who. And like you said, no disrespect to the international guys, but we don't get the same privilege to be able to watch those guys. We're talking about two, three times a week, and then into the NCAA tournament. That's how we get to see these college basketball guys play so much. So yeah, we don't have the same opportunity. So it's hard to get excited about a guy whose first game you haven't seen yet. You haven't seen this guy play. You won't see him play until the summer league. So yeah, hard to get excited about that. Yeah, this is going to be a very interesting and exciting class. Um, and while I don't think Dallas is going to do anything with the number one pick, anything could happen because Nico Harrison is an insane person and somehow still employed. But let's get into our final bit here. Look, we both came down in our last episode to our top three teams for college football 26. With no further ado, we'll get into who they are and we'll get down to that number one team who we'll be kicking off our first dynasty with when this game releases. Early release July 7th and the regular release July 10th.
You so I guess for the people, we'll just kind of restate our top three. My top three teams in no particular order. Purdue, Hawaii, and Temple are my final three teams in consideration. And Austin, your top three is?
Arkansas State, Akron, and UTEP.
So there we go. Those are our top three. And you know what? Since this was your idea, sir, I'm going to let you have the honors and reveal who your team is going to be in college football 26. The people want to know who it is, Austin. Give it to them.
They're begging to know. And look, I couldn't be too obvious. I couldn't be too straightforward with them. Have to keep them guessing all the way until the very last team. And with that being said, I'm going to eliminate the Arkansas Red Wolves. Look, it was a good run. At some point I will play with Arkansas State and start a dynasty. But it's too obvious. Going to Arkansas State, it's what the people were waiting for. They're waiting to hear me say Arkansas State is my team for the dynasty. Got to pull the rug out from under them one last time. And that leaves me with two choices, Maction or Malachi Nelson. It was a tough decision. Lots of hard work, lots of thinking, lots of researching. But in the end, I decided, Akron, this is for you. We're going to be rebuilding the Akron Zips and taking them back to the eternal glory of winning the MAC.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. The Akron Zips will be Austin Hill's first rebuild in college football 26. Um, Man, what an honor for the Akron Zips.
Yes,
you still gotta tell me about the tire celebration whenever you do your dynasty. I gotta learn more
yes.
about that.
I will learn so much about it. I'll probably reach out to the university, see if they'll send me some free goodies. Probably not, but
I will make sure and tag Akron on
yeah,
TikTok and Instagram and YouTube, and just
yeah.
letting them know that's what we're gonna do.
Let them know I could use some merch. Wouldn't hurt. Would be nice to have a little bit of Akron Zips merch. It's rough out there. This economy, tough to buy some Akron Zips merch.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I guess that'll get to me. So to me, this was a very difficult choice. Went with a little bit of creativity on both sides. But the first team I'll eliminate will be the Purdue Boilermakers. Kind of the point that you made whenever we did this last, about let's maybe not start with a Power Four school. I will obviously do a Purdue rebuild at some point
Yeah.
and let Barry Odom lead the Purdue Boilermakers back to greatness at some point. But that leaves me with two teams, very interesting scenarios. You have the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors and the Temple Owls. Man, oh man, it was one of the toughest decisions of my entire life. But at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, careful consideration for both sides, studying what the rosters will look like, coaching staffs, the history. And you know what? At the end of the day, I decided I want to go on a Hawaiian roller coaster ride.
There we
And I
go.
will be taking my talents to Hawaii to rebuild the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors as my first rebuild in college football 26, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to the island. We're going to recruit all the kids from Hawaii, and we're going to be a powerhouse there for the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Our two rebuilds, the Akron Zips for Austin Hill, and for me, Austin Wader, the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors. You got to love to see it. You got to love it.
Yes, this is the beginning of a new era. This is going to be exciting to get our hands on these teams and rebuild. So
But
I'm
I
really
mean,
excited.
we got to address it too, Austin. All the news that's coming out since we talked, they had the gameplay deep dive really kind of come out of nowhere on Friday morning, and they had the presentation article come out this morning. Which have you seen anything about that?
No, I haven't.
Well, then let me break the news to you, Austin. I have some
Hey,
breaking news that's going to make you happy. There are plenty of new mascots in the game this year,
good.
and one of them is for bowl game only. And that is the Pop Tart mascot is going to be in college football 26, ladies and gentlemen. It was when I read it this morning,
Woo!
I completely forgot about it yesterday. I'm like, this is the greatest news I've ever read. Um, the love that they give to the fans of college football, everyone loves the Pop Tart Bowl and the mascot, and adding into the game is just the coolest thing ever with that.
Do
But
you get to
also
eat the Pop Tart in the game?
that I don't know. That I
Okay,
haven't done enough reading yet. But also, what's I think tomorrow morning, 10 a.m., we're getting the Dynasty deep dive, which
good.
is going to be interesting because, um, again, I played Dynasty a lot. I had fun with it, but at points it kind of felt a little bare bones. So I'm curious to see
Yeah.
what they did to upgrade it. But there you go, Austin. I just gave you a whole bunch of information, thoughts on gameplay, your Pop Tart, and maybe what we'll see in Dynasty.
I like the way the gameplay looked. I think they listened to a lot of what people had to say. Um, I like the is it what physics-based tackles where I think as far as I was gathering, it's going to make tackling a little bit easier when guys are just running into each other. Is that what that was meaning? Because I know sometimes you run a screen pass and the defender will run into the guy, but then just slide off of them, and then the guy
Yeah.
and I take advantage of that as somebody. I run a lot of screen passes, and that helps when the guy slides off. But it's like I probably should have gotten hit behind the line. So my interpretation was that more tackles are going to be made. You're going to have less of that sliding off of people. And so I like that even as a guy who, plays a lot of offense and does a lot of offense only when I'm playing in a dynasty game, I still think that the defense needs to be a little bit more realistic. And to kind of balance that out, I know that I talked about it before, but the defender having to get their head around to make interceptions, I think is huge. I didn't even, I knew that interceptions were a little bit buggy, but I couldn't exactly put a thing on it until after that news came out and I was playing college football 25 and I threw a pick with a defender who just did this. And I was like, yeah, that is a little bit of a problem. I was like, because how do you make that play? So now seeing it, I'm glad they're making adjustments. To me, I liked it. Um, but they can tell me all this stuff all they want, and it's going to sound good. But until I get my hands on it, I'm not going to be able to make my full decision until I play it and I know how it feels for me.
Yeah. And so yeah, ladies and gentlemen, there's a lot more that we're going to learn about it. But yeah, man, I'm excited for it. I'm excited we have our teams. I'm excited. I probably my first game, I'm going to have Arkansas play somebody in the Pop Tart Bowl now, just so I can see what it looks like,
That's a good idea.
just to feel something, since the SEC can't actually play in the Pop Tart Bowl.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, I got nothing else to add with that. We'll see what happens in the Dynasty Deep Dive tomorrow. Um, yeah, we're getting to the point, Austin, in this off season. We're kind of nearing the point of the dead period. We really the only things we have left right now are WNBA and the MLB. We're going to be thinking of some fun, creative episodes, I think.
Yeah, we're going to be on top of it. If you have any suggestions, let us know down in the comments. Get us something you want to hear about, hear us talk about. We'll get on it. Like you said, we're getting near that dead period where we're gonna have to start getting our best, most creative ideas and start cracking them out. But with all that being said, that's going to do it for us here at the Bold Take Podcast. That's Austin Waiter. I'm Austin Hill, and we want to thank you for listening.